I'll take this last question for me. It says, it's a very sincere question. How can God help me stop grieving for my husband who passed away in February so that I can move forward? And the second question is about guilt. So I'm going to address the first question right now. I'm not married, but I have lost a loved one. My older brother died when he was 24. And I was 22 when that happened. He died in his sleep at home. I never got to say goodbye to him. And so I've mourned a very intimate loss in my life. And I think that I can just encourage you. The sense of moving forward is something that I kind of question. I don't know if we ever move forward in the sense that loss, we don't carry that loss with us in some way. I think that even today, I still sort of mourn my brother in these moments of life that I wish I could share with him, whether it's seeing him have kids or seeing him with my parents. I still mourn that. But one of the really powerful resources that Christianity offers us here is the hope of, we see this in the Psalms, that you can actually come to God with this pain, with this frustration. You're given a very powerful resource because you're not in this grieving process alone. It gives us permission to grieve and sort of cry out to God in this and be raw in this. And I think that's a huge resource because it allows us to deal with our emotions. In Psalm 102, it says, "Hear my prayer, O Lord. Let my cry come to you. Do not hide your face from me in the day of my distress. Incline your ear to me. Answer me speedily in the day when I call." That is a huge resource for people who are going through pain and suffering. You have a relationship here. And so I just encourage you, don't push yourself through this. Don't think you have to move forward. Sit in this for a while. This is a huge loss. Your marriage had value. Your life has value, and it's worthy to be mourned. And so I think I would say pause a little bit and actually mourn it. Mourn it and bring people around you when you do mourn it. This isn't something you have to race through. And the second point I would say is that, man, when it comes to pain and suffering, there's no worldview like the Christian worldview. Because not only do we have a God who himself suffered, so he relates to our suffering, he understands it, but we also have a God who suffered so that in the end, all of our pain and suffering will be made right. That in the end, there will be redemption here on earth, and that includes the losses and the losses and the death that we experience. And the second question I just want to get to really fast, it says, "I grew up in a Catholic and now find myself deeply flawed by guilt. How can I release that guilt?" Now, I don't understand what the guilt is about, but I did come across this passage the other day, and it's really helpful when it comes to guilt. And I say this because we live in a kind of where we are in society right now is we think with our emotions. Because I feel something, that therefore it's true. Okay, that's our tendency with where we are. And so when you feel guilty, doesn't mean you are guilty. When you feel guilty doesn't mean you're actually guilty. We shouldn't think with our emotions. Our emotions are important, but we should ask those emotions, okay, is there actually reasonable grounds for me to feel guilty in this case? So you have to question that sort of spirit. And I came across this verse in 1 John. It says, "God is greater than our heart, and he knows everything." That means that even though I may feel guilty, that God is greater than my emotions. He's greater than how I feel. And he allows me to sort of call that emotion into question. My emotion isn't God. God is God. And so I just encourage you, whatever guilt that is, maybe bring someone into it and ask yourself, is there reasonable grounds for me to feel guilty here? All because I feel guilty doesn't mean you actually are.